Alright, I want to talk about this because I made a video earlier talking about how the Bengals don't necessarily match up particularly well against the Rams. Defense, that's a coverage that's given them some trouble, but I started thinking and I kind of wondered, what about the other side of things? Are there schematic mismatches for the Rams, and can I look at the numbers and kind of see some stuff and also look at the tape to see what I can find? And there's certainly some things that I find fascinating. Right off the bat, this chart, which I've shown a couple of times actually in my previews, and this isn't a full game preview, this is just talking about one aspect of the game, but still, Matt Stafford, when he's blitzed, has the 4th best PFF grade and the best passer rating. When he isn't blitzed, it drops to the 14th best PFF grade and the 9th best passer rating. So when you blitz him, he does damage, and a big chunk of that is just Cooper Kupp is so good against one-on-one matchups. And typically when you blitz, you're going to leave everyone one-on-one, which allows that to happen. So that's a big chunk of it. The Bengals are 26th in blitz percentage. They don't blitz that often. So right off the bat, there is an inherent advantage there for Cincinnati. Now, should mention that, I brought this up last week because the 49ers actually blitz 4th least in football. And even with that, the Rams, still beat them, but they had their struggles. So it's something to give you hope if you are a Cincinnati Bengals fan, for sure. Another thing I have to talk about is, so the Bengals like to play a lot of cover 2 zone. That's their preferred coverage. Obviously, every team mixes it up a decent amount, but if I have to pick one coverage they typically play, that's the coverage I would pick. So looking at this chart here, I gotta explain this chart. I did the same thing on my other video. These are not scientific numbers. These are not perfect. What I did was I went back and I said, okay, let's look at every team the Rams played and what teams typically play 2 safety deep coverages or typically don't play 2 safety deep coverages, and just lodged how many points per game they had. I didn't go back and watch every single snap from the Rams this season to make this, so I don't exactly know. It's possible, for example, I have the Colts on a team that played a lot of, they typically play a lot of 2 safety deep coverages, but in that game, they actually played a decent amount of cover 3, so I'm still including them in the versus 2 safety deep team, but you could argue that's unfair. So just throwing that out there, it is not a perfect system, but it's something to look at. And you see on this chart, there is a slight advantage when they play teams who, don't run 2 safety deep coverages versus when they do run 2 safety deep coverages, but it's not that dramatic. However, the record is pretty dramatic. Their record versus 2 safety deep teams is just 6-4, whereas when you're playing teams that don't typically play 2 safety deep coverages, it's 9-1. So that's a huge jump right there. We're talking a 60 win percentage to a 90 win percentage, and I was wondering why that is. Maybe they just had some, an easier time and easier matchups against the 2 safety deep teams, but that's not really the case, I don't think. Although one thing I've noticed is that there seems to be a big jump when the Rams would play teams that are good that run 2 safety deep coverages versus bad that run 2 safety deep coverages. The Rams crush bad teams with 2 safety deep coverages, but that's not the Cincinnati Bengals. So I wanted to do this chart now. So this is Stafford's numbers versus winning teams that play cover 2 on the top. You see the numbers are, not great for Stafford this season. His numbers have typically been a lot better. The big thing that jumps out at you is 12 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. That's not what we expect from Stafford. Now on the bottom, you might be wondering, why do I just say Stafford versus the Bucks and Cardinals? Why aren't I including winning teams that do not play cover 2? Well, those are the only 2 winning teams they played that don't typically play cover 2. And by the way, I'm saying cover 2, I'm including like quarters coverage and, 2 safety deep is really what I mean. But you see that, Stafford did crush the Buccaneers and Cardinals all 5 times he played them. Because, that's another thing. It's a small sample size in terms of the variance of teams, but you do get 5 games there, which helps things a little bit. Is it totally fair to do this? Maybe, I don't know, but it's interesting. You look at his overall numbers, these are just not taking into account quality of play, just what defense the opposing team typically plays, and you're going to see it's relatively similar, but there is a slight upgrade when he is playing teams that don't run 2 safety deep coverages versus teams that do. So there's something there. How dramatic of a something is there? I don't know, but I do actually think looking at the film, it looks more dramatic watching the film than it does looking at the numbers. So I know some of the people that watch these videos like looking at numbers, some people like looking at film, and I think that's why a lot of you guys like watching my videos, is because I talk about both. But while the numbers might not seem too strong that there's something here, the tape does really back it up from what I could see. So like, here's an example from this game, and I should be clear, the Ravens are not one of the teams that typically plays cover 2, so I did not include them there. But this is a play that is a good example of when you are going up against 2 safeties deep, these are the issues the Rams can run into. Stafford is the kind of guy where he likes to use his eyes to get safeties out of position, and then he can throw and hit wide open players. Like, that's what he does, and he has success doing it. However, here, Stafford's going to attempt to do that, but with 2 safeties deep, even if you get a guy a little bit out of position, there's going to be, he doesn't have as much room to go there, and he's going to be able to get the interception right there. So this is something that Stafford will do, is he'll turn the ball over more against cover 2 than when he's not going up against cover 2. That's why you see kind of the big difference was, when he's playing good teams that play cover 2 zone, is they get interceptions, which a bad defense might not take advantage of, but a Cincinnati Bengals defense absolutely will take advantage of. So we have something here. I think there is a very real thing here. How big is it? I don't know. Because like the flip side, I think about a play like this where against the Tampa Bay, which by the way, all these numbers did include playoffs, you're going to see this was against cover 2, and this was just a blown coverage according to everyone but Dan Orlovsky. Basically everyone agrees this is a blown coverage, and basically the Rams can trick you into getting blown coverages relatively frequently, and they did it here on a cover 2 zone against Tampa Bay that got them 70 yards and a touchdown. So on one hand, you could sit here and say, well, this could skew those numbers I showed, because the Rams did kind of light up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a little bit when they, even when the Buccaneers ran cover 2 zone. But the flip side is the Buccaneers don't typically do this. The Bengals do, so they're going to be better at it. So wanted to show it. It's interesting. All of this stuff is interesting. I don't have a strong opinion on this video, even though I do think this information is notable and worth talking about. I do think that it's fair to say that the odds of Stafford throwing interceptions when there's 2 safeties deep go up. Like, they do. They go up. That's what the numbers say. That's what the tape says. I think that there's a higher likelihood that Stafford will throw multiple interceptions against Cincinnati than there would be if he was playing a team that maybe doesn't run that type of defense. However, how big of it is an advantage, I just don't know. It doesn't seem like it's crazy high according to the numbers. I did see some tape there, but again, as long as Stafford doesn't turn the ball over, I don't think it should be that big of an issue. I think really the turnovers against cover 2, those odds go up, but I think that's all we've really learned here. So final chart, I thought this would be fun to do this, as I'm going to make plenty of videos previewing this Super Bowl. We have 2 weeks to talk about it. I'm going to spend 2 weeks talking about it. So what this chart is basically what I'm going to do is when I make a video, I didn't do this for the last one, but I went back and added it there. When I make a video, I'm going to have sort of a scoring system just so we can keep track of how I feel about these 2 teams. So when I talked about Cincinnati and how they play versus, again, I wrote cover 2, but really 2 safety deep coverages, I'm going to give a +5 advantage to the Rams. I'm going to grade all of these 1 through 5. Meanwhile, for how the Rams go up against 2 safety deep coverages, I'm just giving Cincinnati a +1 here. It's not, the numbers were really dramatic against Cincinnati and in the Rams' favor. When we're talking about them and how they will go up against this, the Rams do get a little bit worse, but it doesn't seem massively so, and you could even just chalk it up to a small sample size. So the tape is a little bit more concerning, but which is why I still have it as an advantage to Cincinnati, because I could just do +0 for anybody, but it's not a massive advantage, I don't think. And I think talking about how these 2 teams match up against 2 safety deep coverages, so far we're at advantage Rams, but there's still plenty to talk about. So let me know what you think of all of this stuff in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.